News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth, thedarkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, wishing you all a continued riveting National Sandwich Month.
I got a sandwich. I have an epic sandwich story for you.
Okay,
it's
good.
not epic, but it was an epic sandwich. So.
It's still notable, but I'd still like to put it out there for the listeners. What is your go-to sandwich when you're on the job?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I'll share that in a minute, actually. It's highly relevant to Tool Talk Radio, believe it or not. Well, Allan, this week is going to be, the animals are taking over. The animals played, well, they played a big role in my life this week. I don't know how your week went. I mean, yours looked like you were getting your work done, not interrupted by any critters. So.
There were plenty of critters.
All I hear is the Dr. Doolittle song, If I Could Walk with the Animals.
Well, I have a follow-up to that chipmunk story that I shared with my wife, that she was cat sitting for some friends, and a chipmunk got in the house. I found out the whole story with that. We had another issue with a squirrel in our neighborhood, and I think it actually solved one of my problems. So let's see. But getting down to actual home improvement, we didn't get to our flushing out the hot water heater discussion last week. So I think it's time to do that.
It would behoove us to flush the hot water tank.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just will say this. We were in the middle of show prep last night. We were interrupted because we had a dog show up in our yard. I spent the whole night dealing with a stray dog, and I've even made posts on the Facebook about it. Folks, we're trying to find the owner of a cute little puppy that is in our yard, and we're just trying to find that thing a good home. So instead of great moments in building history, we're actually answering a question from, is it Brew Blaster? Max?
Brew Blaster.
Brew Blaster sent in a text asking about the construction of jails. And,
Okay.
Allan, I always thought people like you and me would actually be really good at breaking out of a jail if it ever came to it, because we know how things are built. So we might look at an area and say, that wall over there is vulnerable. I think I can, like in Shawshank Redemption.
I'm starting to get flashbacks from our great moments in building history where we were talking about the Great Escape.
Yeah, but anyway, Brew Blaster, I think we would have an advantage if it came to it. I hope it doesn't. I hope you stay on the straight and narrow.
You probably don't want to advertise that you're good at breaking out of jails on the air in case you ever are incarcerated.
Okay, but anyway.
I will defer back to building a pizza restaurant for children in the early 80s.
Well, the same business model, same concept.
There are a lot of the exact same lessons.
Okay.
And the zoo gets involved here too. So yeah, I'm game for that one.
And if we have time, which we probably won't because we're already too slammed, I still want to get to the cosmic homeowner. That is
okay.
That's a segment, but there's more. I was counting it, Allan. I believe we have about 3 weeks worth of notes in front of us, so I better stop doling it out. But before we get to any of those things, let's get to our must-have item of the week, which I'm not holding up because it's too big. But Allan brought it up. I'm pointing at it right now. But Allan, it's on Facebook if you want to go to @Tool Talk Radio on Facebook and see what Allan brought in. But you want to tell us about this contraption?
My new baby, my new toy. It is a shop vac.
Oh, it's not just any shop vac.
It's not just any shop vac. It is an 18-volt battery-powered carryable shop vac.
Now, can you pick up water with it?
Yes, it is a wet dry. It is a wet dry. You can take the filter out and soak up all the water you want, up to 1 gallon. There are several different sizes that have already come out. I got the 1, there's a 1, there's a 3, there's a 5. Here is just the thing. I work in a lot of situations where there's no power.
Yeah, you might be going, okay,
I'm in an attic.
That thing 500
I'm in a
yards
basement.
over there
I'm
is
in,
broken.
I'm in a building that has no power.
Right.
So the days of stringing together 1,000 feet of, let's just face it, by the time you have all the extension cords I have strung together, it's sketchy. At best.
Oh, yeah. We know how Clark Griswold's story went.
It is. I'm happy I'm no longer building, electrical ways of dying. I got to tell you, this thing got a trial by fire this week, working on a property and putting in baseboards.
Oh, yeah.
Of all things, putting in baseboards. Well, if you've never done baseboards in a fresh building, those cracks and crevices are just packed full of everything.
That's where all the sheetrock dust goes.
That's the sheetrock and the crumbles
floor.
and paint splatter and spiders.
Right.
Somehow or another, in a building in the middle of the city, in the middle of construction, there will be 800 spiders in those cracks.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, normally a very painful task took 2 minutes, and this was one of those how to paint a white fence because everybody wanted to try it.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's walking around, oh, this is great. Oh, this is, you know what? I didn't even have to do it. Hey, you want to try my new toy? So I got this whole crew full of people out there running around with a vacuum cleaner, and that is the cleanest job site you've ever seen because they cleaned everything. Everybody had to have a turn, so it was wonderful.
There's so many things where it's like, okay, like in fairness, okay, there's some tools that being battery powered, I don't know still whether they're an advantage. Like I'm just thinking of a table saw because, table saw's got a lot of torque, and you're not necessarily contending with the extension cord. But
Correct.
there are those those tools, like we said, like a drill or a circular saw, or really a vacuum is one of the top ones. You're constantly tripping over the cord. It's getting snagged on things. You could be vacuuming your house and drag the little delicate coffee table over or something.
And the cord is dragging stuff around the room like a big dog wagging a tail.
Right.
Now, I do have a question. Are there some tools that are best left stationary?
Yes.
Well, sure.
Any number of tools, things like drill presses and that kind of stuff are so much better off. And there are things, especially like tile cutters, that really need a certain level of power. And it's so much better to have those things at least established where they're supposed to be.
Right.
But this right here, I got to tell you, a few months ago, I bought the stand-up version, the home version, battery-powered vacuum cleaner. And I got to tell you, that is, it's stupid to say something this simple changes your life. But it really, really does.
You don't have to sell me. I believe that.
I'm just telling the listeners, if you haven't explored, and there's a wide variety of brands. We're not supporting any one brand.
Right.
But you do have to these days kind of pick your battery.
Mm-hmm.
Whose battery are you going to use? And all the major brands have a lot of battery-powered products.
Right.
But you don't want to keep mixing and matching, so you'll kill yourself on batteries.
Yeah, then you have a stack of batteries in there.
Right.
So stick to one brand that you like.
Sorry, I know this is a bit of an aside, but when you were talking about like tools having a certain amount of power when they're stationary or having a lot of power because they're stationary, it just makes me think of my martial arts class that the reason when that you have to like stand still in order when you're about to produce a punch is because there's more power in a punch when you're grounded and have a foundation as opposed to when you're just wobbling around.
Well, that's why the cutting tables and stuff that I use are not light. They're good and stable, and you need something you can push on and lean on, and that is that brings up next week's must-have item.
Okay.
I've already got it picked.
You already got to
talk
tease
about it. We're going to tease it this week, and I'm going to tell you why my idea is better than yours.
Okay, good. No, but you're right, Max. And I'll tell you one tool that I especially need stability on is my wood lathe. That thing rocks and shakes, and I have it clamped to a table. I've sometimes even put like weights and barbells down by the legs just to kind of keep it extra stable.
So portability isn't always the answer.
No, but in this situation, it is. I mean, I think there's a lot of tools where not tripping over the cord is worth the price of addition right there.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, not a bad one, Allan, and it's got all the attachments, and I love the the shop vac. The reason I was asking if it picked up water is because to me that simple revolution was a big deal when you had suddenly you could just vacuum up water, because if you're in a garage or if you're in a shop situation, you may have all these things mixed together, and that simple concept of vacuuming up anything was pretty cool. So
especially, well, all right, as an aside of the shop vac is one of my favorite, we'll say, of arachnid eliminators, because you can put a little water in the bottom of it, little soapy water, and that termite nest, that ant nest, that wasp nest, they can go down that shop vac and not come out.
See, now I'm torn, Alan, because I like spiders. I don't want to. Wasps, I don't care.
I enjoy some spiders, but I hate to say it, there are just certain varieties you can't have around people.
I feel like, okay, that might be its own listener discussion, because, Alan, I always feel like spiders are actually doing some work. They're helping us, the right type of spider. I don't want a spider that's going to bite me and put a hole in my arm, but there's some that they're taking care of business. They're keeping some other pests away from you.
I will go out of my way to save a jumping spider. But there are I'm serious, I will go out of my way, but there are other people that will tell you when they see a spider, it's time to burn the building down.
And Max, you no matter what the bug is, you have a tendency to put it in a cup and save the thing, right?
I've even gone so far as to do that with wasp after I incapacitated them.
Really?
Yep.
I can't promise I've done that. Especially those little rusty colored.
Yeah,
wasps.
Once a couple of them have been appropriately ungrateful, yeah, you'll change your tune.
The only time I've ever had an ungrateful wasp, let's just say, was when I was a kid on a diving board and I got stung in the butt by a yellow jacket.
That'll do it.
That'll leave its stamp on a man.
And drop the mic.
So. All right, well, you guys, speaking of that, we're going to keep the critter talk going. We have a few critter stories that I think are highly relevant that we're going to talk about when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
This thing is a mess.
We used to have 3 carts, actually. The first one got pushed into the creek by some kids. The second one, raccoons got onto. There was urine everywhere. And the third one was recently stolen.
What's this one?
This is the second one, the raccoon one.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
All right, Max. I guess we're on brand today. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, we're in the middle of a real-time animal rescue going on. Allan, I posted on Facebook that we found a dog in our yard. I don't know if somebody put it in there. It's a cute little puppy, but our yard is completely fenced in. And it's a nice little dog, but we can't keep it, and we got to find a home. So we fed it, we're taking care of it, but we're looking for the owner or we're looking for a new home. So if you want to see this cute little, we think it's a she, go to our Facebook page. But Allan, let's change gears. We have another relevant topic here.
That's the most foul, cruel, and bad-tempered rodent you ever set eyes on. I just wanted to hug.
Oh, rats in the kitchen, just like that delightful movie I taped in the theater.
All right, we have another critter war, and this wasn't. I'm not initiating this war. Somebody, I blame MLGW for this one. But so, well, I got a question.
MLGW for this one,
I don't know. But so if here's okay. Let me preface this by asking you a question, Allan. So you remember? I think I mentioned it. I bought a new refrigerator about a year ago. In fact, it was like the last 4th of July sale last year. We got a great deal. Folks, if you ever want the best deals of the year, I believe the 4th of July and the Labor Day sales are the most discounted. We saved like $800 or $900 on this refrigerator. Yeah. And we got the nice simple one. It's got a door on the left with the freezer, a door on the right with the refrigerator, and then a nice little, modest ice maker and water dispenser. Big deal, so no computers, no whatever. Well, the ice maker was we ran out of ice. And I'm like, what's wrong with this ice maker? I mean, this thing's not even a year old or anything. And it seemed to be petering out or something.
Okay.
Well, the next day, you remember that surge that we told you about? If you hadn't heard, folks, about 2 months ago, I was in the bathroom getting ready to come here, do the show, and we heard a zzz, boom. Like it was a good 5-second. it was a weird. It sounded like something out of a Frankenstein movie. And I went and investigated, and it turned out a squirrel had short-circuited himself and blew up, basically. And it was a pole about 50 yards from our house. So I went and saw it. And, well, Allan, same thing happened the other morning.
Okay.
And I immediately knew where to go. And now there's some huge scorch marks on this telephone pole. This is a pretty new telephone pole. Another squirrel bit the dust.
Yeah, a little rodent flambe.
He looked pretty bad. He was, it was a pretty, at least it's a quick kill. But, Allan, all of a sudden my ice maker started working again. So did a squirrel have to burn so that my ice could freeze?
Now we
That's
have
my
to
question.
think of a new name. Mine is St. Crispus the Martyr.
Yeah, we want to immortalize this little critter for. But Allan, is there a correlation here? All of a sudden, the ice maker's working. It got a surge. The power went dim. Then, and then it was back on.
It could have been polarized. Yes.
Talk to me.
Well, you could have overcharged it, and now that the current's been dropped down again, it recovered itself. It's basically it was like being unplugged and plugged back in.
Okay.
So you haven't unplugged the refrigerator since the first surge.
That's a good point.
You haven't reset anything in the refrigerator. Nothing's turned off.
Right.
So whatever the state it was when the electrical came back to it is the state it's remained in. Well, now it's been unplugged accidentally via the squirrel. You had another dip in the voltage. So whatever reset, and voila. You are now, how do we say, rodent-enhanced ice making.
Okay. Well, I appreciate his sacrifice, but
yeah, you guys can stop taking out the neighborhood anytime you want.
Well, and so my next question was this: we've lived in this house since 2003.
Right.
This has never happened, and all of a sudden in 2 months it's happened twice. So is there a change in? Okay, I guess I'm just wondering: is there a change in the squirrels' migration patterns? Is there a different tree line that maybe they're? I don't know, because they seem to be traveling down this wire more frequently, and what causes that is these two little poles have to connect, right? Like its tail has to touch one thing, and then
it creates a short circuit of what actually could be happening is that due to the tree trimming program by MLG&W over the very aggressive tree trimming program that they have been pursuing for the last couple of years to keep, while we don't have a lot of ice and snowstorms, every year we do get at least one, and we have tree limbs come crashing down over the electrical lines. Well, MLG&W has rather aggressively been getting on top of that, and, so a pathway they had in the past may have now been removed.
I think you're onto it, man. Now that you're saying that, I think you're right, because, if they could jump from tree to tree, they would have done that, but now they don't have that. So, and as a matter of fact, this power line goes across a very busy road.
Right, as opposed to the tree limbs reaching all the way across it and the power lines touching in the middle, which a lot of Memphis, there are a lot of older Memphis streets where the oak trees do canopy over the street.
Oh, I've seen those, yeah.
We have, for those of you listening outside of Memphis, you have to understand, Memphis, we got trees.
Oh, when you fly into Memphis,
green.
When people fly
green.
in, they're like, is there a city here? It's like, it looks like you're flying into a forest.
Where we have got a lot of trees, but the upside is, hey, we got a lot of trees. The downside is we got a lot of trees and a lot of limbs and a lot of deadfall. But because of the trimming activities, I think some areas of old pathways have been removed.
And so the second part of this, I guess, so the simple solution, I suppose, maybe these days, if you have a modern appliance, is just unplug it and plug it back in. Maybe it's like, because it never occurred to me. I don't think of my refrigerator the same way I think of like a computer or a TV. Because like the TV, you do that, and a lot of times it fixes it. But
it's got a board in it.
Okay, so that's sort of the way it works.
Everything today has some form of control board.
Even your car, you got to disconnect the battery to reset
car,
it.
Everything. So I would have to say that the state of your fridge has been reset.
Okay. All right. Well, and I'm going to be keeping an eye. I just wonder about this squirrel. The casualties are piling up here. So.
Well, we're getting into what I call teenage season. Well, you think about it. All right, your early spring, you've got everybody making nest.
Right.
So you see, you'll see birds carrying stuff through the air everywhere. If you were watching your squirrels and chipmunks, they were doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, we all see them chasing each other around the trees and all that stuff. Well, then they have the kids. Then you got to raise the kids. And then, like, any good, wildlife parent, as soon as the kid's big enough, out you go.
Okay.
So they're not as well versed with things as the adults.
So let's just say I'm a St. Crispus and have a lot of time to learn well.
Yeah, I was going to say, now I feel bad for this because he's just finally getting out into the world and exploring and seeing where he can go. And
well,
the first
he
thing
didn't
he does
pay
is,
attention when Mom jumped over the middle wire. So,
okay. Well, I just wonder if we're going to have to squirrel-proof some of these, some of these electrical posts. I don't know, man.
Dude, man versus the squirrel is an ongoing battle that we're not doing too good at.
And it's our fault.
Yeah, I guess so. But anyway, I am grateful that our ice maker's working again. I mean, whatever. All right, well, that's my tale of squirrel. When we come back, we're going to find out what Allan did this week.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Dying tickles.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
That's why you can guess why I chose that.
Yeah, I'm sure the squirrel felt that way, Max. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, critters are playing a large role today. We talked about another squirrel fry at my house. Unfortunately, whatever. Another squirrel bit the dust. And hey, but on the flip side, we rescued a puppy. So, Hey, in a minute, we're going to find out what Allan did this week. But before we do that, let's talk about our good friends over at Groundworks. Allan, do you think they have issues with with foundation? Can critters cause issues with your foundation?
Termites certainly can.
If you had a family of beavers there, they started. Who knows? But anyway, our friends at Groundworks are all about the health and protection of the foundation of your home. And foundations, really, there's no two. Even if you walk down the street and all these houses were built at the same time, I bet you their foundations have different dynamics. It may be a slab or a crawl space or a basement or a combination of all of those. And depending on your elevation or the ground soil or even your gutters, there's all sorts of factors that go into keeping your foundation healthy. And a lot of us, unless you're trained in this, you may not be able to diagnose the health of your foundation because there's a lot of things at play, like we said. So you need experts, and especially the problem with foundations is sometimes they manifest themselves in unusual ways, like these stair-step cracks that we see going up brick walls or over doorways or odd and musty smells or a sagging floor. All of those can indicate a problem with your foundation. So call our friends at Groundworks. What happens is they come out and they bring their diagnostic equipment. It's almost like a health checkup, like when you go to the doctor. And they're going to analyze and examine your foundation. It's a free inspection. And then afterwards, they're going to tell you what they found. And hopefully you get a clean bill of health and everything's great. If there are any problems, though, from big to small, they can handle every problem with your foundation, and there's nobody that does it better. So it really sort of behooves you to visit with Groundworks and to have the peace of mind of knowing that your foundation is protected. So you can call Groundworks at 901-459-2290 or go to their website, groundworks.com, and book your free inspection today. All right. Well, let's change gears, you guys.
Oh, the humanity.
I think that is more apropos for my reports today, Max. But Allan, I mean, I saw the pictures you sent. Once again, you had a full week, but didn't look like anything harrowing to me. Am I wrong?
Well, we're going to start with a tale of recycling.
Talk to me.
In one of the job sites, we had removed a cultured vanity. And it was from the 70s.
Yeah.
And this was, kind of a faux dark marble made of some nebulous material. But it's a big vanity, too. I mean, this thing is almost 48 inches long.
Cultured Vanity sounds like some sort of punk rock song.
All right. Not a bad name for a band.
However, one of the people on the site goes, does that thing still work? And I'm like, yeah, it just doesn't have an overflow. It's an old, it's an
it doesn't
old
have a hole
one-piece
in there.
vanity.
Yeah.
It's just, everything's there. And the debate began. So how do you put one of those in your backyard?
Wait, why is that the debate that began? You hang out with weirdos, man. Allan's friends are, okay. Oh, I see, on a porch. Okay, so like an outdoor kitchen type thing?
Well, yeah, it was right next to the patio. And
classy.
Everybody went, if we just had a place to, wash stuff, we could cook things at the fire
throw it on the
pit, or we could, what if we just need to be able to wash our hands outside. So it's kind of like, all right, well, you got any lumber? Yeah. All right, let's build a box. All right, let's build a box the size of the vanity. Let's put the vanity in it.
Yeah.
Okay, now plumb it just like it's a sink. But, how are we going to get water? You got a faucet, don't you?
Yeah, I was going to say, get a garden hose.
Well, they got a small garden hose. They had no idea you could buy an 8-foot-long garden hose.
Right.
But you can.
Yeah.
There's a little transition hose. So they got that, and then we went and investigated between of sprinkler systems, lawn systems, plumbing, and garden hose. We managed to get all the proper fittings to actually connect the garden hose to the spigot, bring it around, and put a dual port so they can still have a hose, and they now have water run to the sink.
Okay, but I do have a question. My first, getting water to it was a no-brainer. That's easy. You just get a garden hose. You're only going to have cold water.
Right. That's all they wanted.
How are you handling the drain? Are you just getting a 5-gallon bucket at the bottom of it?
Well, here's the beautiful thing. It actually drains off into a side garden.
Okay, so you're just using that water.
We're just bringing that. What I did was I came down, and instead of the usual P-trap, right, I made a nest trap. So it comes down, then turns around and goes over, and now it is way in the back of the box, way back by the fence, and I put a long exhaust pipe on it so that it comes down to within an inch of the ground, and underneath that we put an appropriate drain catch. So the water now goes where they want it to go.
I have an unfair question for you. Although you're a scientist and you know about chemistry, so maybe you'll know the answer to this. So, okay, so you're talking, you're out there and you're washing your raw chicken before you throw it on the grill or something,
right?
And now all of that water with from the chicken is with salmonella and who knows whatever else is washing down into the garden. Well, does your garden like that kind of stuff? Would that actually help it?
Well, considering the garden it's going to does not have anything edible in it, it's a flower garden.
Okay, well, the flowers like that stuff?
So far, they're loving it.
Well, that's
they
not
look
an answer.
better than everything else in the yard because they're getting watered better than anybody else right now.
Now, on the flip side, what if you have hand soap because now you have to wash your hands after handling that? What is
just
soap?
use to quote certain commercials, use that soap you can wash a duck in.
Yeah, don't run Drano through there.
Yeah, you don't want to be putting harsh chemicals down. But as far as a quickie, I've been working in the garden. I want to get the dirt off my hands. I mean, you're not doing the dishes or anything out here. But just as a little weird side note, they put a sink in the backyard. They ran a little water to it. And the general response has been, we have functional water that's not having to go turn on the hose and go find this and go do that. It's just, hey, walk over and it's on tap. And look, you wash your hands.
I like that. I would almost call that street level plumbing. It reminds
it
me of
was.
living in San Diego, where like you'd be at the beach and they just have these random showers.
Yeah.
Where so
Just
if you're surfing, you rinse the sand, you rinse the
Get the
salt
salt
water off
off of
before
you.
you get in
Yeah.
the car. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, and it's
And
an
this-
easy rigged up thing.
And this is just knock the dirt off before you take it in the house.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
That's
The
kind
other-
of a fun project, actually.
It actually was a lot of fun. I just sat there and supervised and went, no, do this, do that, do this, do that. The other thing I want to bring up this time of year, trees, deadfall, and widowmakers.
Yeah.
Because you just went through an experience
Oh yeah.
with your
2 weeks ago.
your neighbor's tree of
Just
I've
missed
run
our
in-
house. So.
yeah, it's just oddly I've run into it several times in the last couple of weeks where it wasn't anything big. It was nothing I couldn't handle myself, but I will freely tell you, if you can't get your hands around it, chances are you need an arborist.
And when you pick that up and you feel how heavy that one limb is, it's amazing. You're like, no wonder that thing can crush a car.
And well, you crush a car, go through your roof,
Right.
or kill you.
Right.
I've been on two resident sites and a commercial site in the last 2 weeks where I looked up in the trees as I walked through. It's just kind of a habit. You get, you just kind of look. You look
Yeah.
at stuff you know. And each one of these had a somewhat substantial branch at some extent of dying, leaning, or hanging.
Right.
And it's kind of like, oh, you really, really, really need to get, you need to get a professional to come look at this immediately.
You just made me think of something, Alan, because, okay, if we're talking about tree health, it's like, okay, in the winter, everything, it's hard to maybe gauge because there's no leaves on the trees.
Right.
You can't. Well, wouldn't this be the ideal time to really do a serious tree inspection? Because if you have all these limbs and maybe, most of the tree looks good, but there's that limb over there that's not producing any leaves or any.
Bingo.
And so that's how you can sort of gauge where
Yeah,
the
it's
trouble
kind of
is.
like,
So-
this one little tree over here looks really kind of pitiful, but it's just tall enough to just reach the car.
Yeah.
That is actually the case I was on because it was like it had died and had begun to curl and was aimed right exactly where the homeowner's car sat. I mean, it was like
ticking time bomb.
it was just like it was lining up the shot.
Right.
It's just kind of like, we're going to get that car sometime in the next couple of months.
Right.
Because once, one good wind, one good shove, that thing snapped off just low enough, it'd have gone right through the back window.
There you go. So this is every season. There's ways to inspect your home. Now's the time to inspect your trees. So,
It is.
in the middle of summer. So, all right, we have more. We'll decide what we're going to talk about when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The likelihood of you dying violently within the next 5 minutes is 87.61%. You are about to get me killed. We will both die because of your negligence.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
You just can't let that squirrel go, can you, Max? And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, you should know that we are in the middle of a celebration of National Sandwich Month. And Allan, on that note, real quick, before we shift gears, I just want to say, it's funny how we say something one week and the next week it happens. We talked about a tree, the threat of trees falling. The next week, a tree falls and almost hits my house. Well, I mentioned the Italian beef last week because we kicked off National Sandwich Week, and an Italian beef is a sandwich that's very difficult to get right. And I prefer the full dip. Like in Chicago, folks, if you don't know, they dip it right into that au jus, and it is a soaking wet sandwich. Not really, though. I mean, it absorbs it, and it is one of the best sandwiches when done right. Well, I haven't had a good Italian beef in probably decades because,
Right.
Well, I just happened across this little place in near the airport, and it was a very nondescript building, really not even that great of a neighborhood. I had the best Italian beef I've had in decades. It was really good. I wish they were advertisers and I could tell you the name of it, but Anyway, it's funny how you say something one week and the next week it happens. So
It does.
I guess they call that manifesting. I'm kind of tired of that word. We overuse it in our society. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that. So if you've got a go-to sandwich out there, folks, that you have to have, before you get your work done, let us know what it is. So, all right, but Max, let's shift gears here.
And now, Tool Tales with Tool Talk Radio.
Well, Allan, we teased this last week and we didn't have time to get to it, but we don't talk enough about the health and safety of your hot water tank. And honestly, there's something that needs to be done that I don't know if a lot of homeowners are aware of it. So,
well, all right, for anybody that doesn't live in Memphis, purging the hot water tank is an annual event. If you live
like in
any
New
place,
England and places like
if you
that.
live harder water, I'm just thinking about our brethren right over here in Arkansas that have much harder water than Memphis.
Harder water meaning like calcium deposits.
It's got calcium. It's got iron. If you get far enough out in Texas, you can taste, hydrocarbons.
Yeah.
Depending upon where you are, I'm remembering a trip to Milwaukee where I was shocked to discover that Southern soap was a bad idea.
What does that mean?
That means
what is Southern soap?
Well, soap that is sold in Memphis doesn't lather very well in Minnesota.
All right. I didn't know that.
It's not a soap designed for hard water.
Oh, I didn't think of that. The chemical reaction between the water and the soap can vary depending upon the
chemical nature of the water.
Okay.
Memphis is exceedingly blessed. We have what is called artesian water, which sand filtered comes up out of the ground. We have a variety of pumping stations around town, which means our water is shockingly free of a lot of stuff.
You can take your tap water and bottle it and sell it to people up north.
Oh yeah,
honestly.
and they would be thrilled.
Yeah.
And I think we actually do. But I forget the actual brand name. But that doesn't actually mean our water is completely bereft of ground chemicals. It does have some. And what happens in a hot water tank is that you are constantly heating, thus causing what they call decanting or settling out of the water. And as a tank ages, also the interior of the tank, depending upon the brand and what it's made of, can even rust.
Oh, yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah, so it happens.
That's what causes your pilot to go out sometimes, folks. So every year you have to change that little, every 5 years you change that little coupling down there.
Right. There are things that need to be fixed and checked periodically. But if you think about it, a hot water tank is X number of gallons, 10, 20, 60, 100, couple of hundred of hot water just sitting there.
Yeah.
You have a big old, it's like having a great big hot aquarium. It is full of water. And you need to watch the health of these things. And periodically, you should be able to connect a hose to it. There is an outlet, a spigot. And you should have some way of expressing that water outside of the building.
So you turn off I guess this is one question, though, because if somebody's got gas power or whatever, is this a DIY thing, or is this like, I guess if somebody's not super familiar.
It can be a DIY. Happily, there are about 8 million videos on YouTube for you to look at. I would just Google real quickly the instructions of the brand that you have.
Okay, yeah.
Because different brands will tell you different things. Happily in Memphis, this is just not something we have to do very often.
I got to confess, Allan, I don't think I've ever done it, man. And I probably need to. Mine's about 8 years old, so it's probably ready.
Yeah, it's probably due. I mean, this is something in the commercial world we do about every 6 months. We go through, we hook up the hose, we put it down the drain, we express X amount of water out of it just to make sure we've got the bottom sediments out. But that's usually in larger boilers, 200, 300, 400 gallons. But your hot water tank is basically a little baby boiler, and they are pressurized. And it is hot water. You need to be careful and know what you're doing. That's why I tell everybody, please go look up the instructions for your brand, for your model, because an electric hot water tank is not exactly the same as a gas-powered.
You know what you're making me think of? You know how we talk about, like with groundworks, the problem may manifest itself in different ways.
Right.
Okay, well, you're just reminding me of something because, you know how on our faucets, on our sink faucets, we have a little screen. Now, you don't see it all the time,
right.
folks. It
the
may
aerator.
be depending on
right.
an aerator, and depending on the type of faucet you have, maybe you can't even get to it. But if you suddenly are wondering, like, why is the sink water pressure so low? Why is my kitchen sink?
Right.
Well, it might be that little sediments from the pipes are clogging that up. And if you can unscrew that little screen at the bottom of your faucet, I bet you're going to see it full of black, corroded, rusty colored gunk. And if you clean that off, suddenly you're going to have renewed water pressure.
Or take it with you to your big box store or your hardware store or a plumbing supply store and match it up and get you a new one. It's going to cost you about $2.
Right. Yeah,
and
exactly.
Slap you a brand new aerator in there, and you will be shocked and amazed at how much lighter, fluffier, and happier that water is going to be. As a caveat, however, I will tell you, if you've got a toilet paper tube or a paper towel tube, put that up over it when you take the aerator off, put that around it so it doesn't spray everywhere, and turn it on and turn it up as a full blast and express any sand, debris, or rust out of the line.
Yeah.
Before you put on the new aerator.
Yeah, get it clean. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. And, I mean, like you said, we probably, folks up north or people, maybe even in California, they deal with this a lot more.
Yes.
So, you got to, all you're doing is just keeping the sediment out. And
and how do you know when you're getting towards the end of its life is that, well, your hot water just doesn't seem to last as long.
So there's
So
clogs.
if you used to get a 20-minute shower and now you're only getting a 15-minute shower, that means you've lost that much capacity in your hot water tank.
Wow. I can't imagine how much sediment is in there to change that.
Exactly.
That would be, yeah.
And
So.
that sediment also prevents it from heating properly.
Well, just in the same way our bodies need to get flushed, your hot water tank needs a good flushing as well. So, well, Allan, hour one of Tool Talk Radio, I don't know where the heck it went. It's gone. But we have a lot coming up when we come back in the second hour of Tool Talk Radio, including talking about how prisons are built.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. There's a lot going on. This is National Sandwich Month. I'm sort of disappointed that I haven't heard from some of our loyal listeners about what their favorite sandwiches are.
I'm curious about what Deuce's favorite is.
I don't want to know anything about what Deuce eats.
Or does Deuce eat?
Does he eat? Does he just
eats.
drink his?
He eats. Yeah.
Deuce stands alone. So, anyway, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot of other things happening. We it's funny how weeks take on a theme. The Animal Kingdom theme is strong at my house. We're trying to find a home for a lost puppy that strayed into our yard somehow. I think we were talking about it off the air, Allan. There may be a gap under our fence that this little lady got under.
All they need.
Very cute puppy. We're finding a home for it. But Allan, speaking of that, staying in my backyard, I wanted to discuss something with you. And I guess I don't know if this is a pros and cons thing, but my wife's pretty much going full hippie these days.
Cool.
I mean, I can't argue with her. A lot of the, any natural thing, she's all about natural health, natural, whatever. The importance of stretching, things like that. Preventative health.
Okay.
Well, she really two things. She's finally on board for doing some gardening in our backyard. We have a huge backyard, and
You do.
lectured me before, like, why aren't we growing stuff back here? Well, she's ready to do that.
Okay, awesome.
She wants to have you come over and consult. But more to the point, she wants me to put up a clothesline outside.
Excellent
Okay,
idea.
so now growing up, I don't know where we had clothesline. Everybody had a clothesline in their backyard in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say you used it all the time, but there were certain items it made sense to put on a clothesline.
Right.
But are they? I don't see many clotheslines these days. Are we?
Not anymore. However, among certain groups, and I'll pick on a number of my own friends, everybody's pretty much got a clothesline.
Really? Now, what are they hanging out there? Because
a lot of people like to hang sheets. They like the bed sheets.
Really?
Air-dried. Yep. Of when you air dry something versus a dryer, the finished product, the actual sensation of the material is very different.
Doesn't it make it crispier?
It
when
does.
It's outside?
It does. It's actually a harder material. Depending upon your personal choices, some people actually definitely enjoy the dryer more. A lot of, I'm going to say us old timers, those good, hard, old-fashioned, crisp sheets were just awesome. They felt good, but there was definitely sun-dried to them. The idea, and also, we live in the South. We have a lot of sunshine. Not that big a deal to walk out there and hang up a few clothes, and
they'll be dry in 20 minutes.
They'll be
in
nice
August.
and dry,
yeah.
and big stuff that really doesn't fit in the dryer.
If you wash a
sleeping bags,
Yeah.
comforters, that kind of stuff, really need to hang out and dry. Really need to get plenty of air. Get them out there. I know quite a few people. There are variety. Actually, the cool thing is the variety of clotheslines that are available. There are your standard clothesline.
Yeah.
Just big old heavy line. You set it up like a zip line, and you go hang your clothes on it. My favorite is the carousel.
Yeah.
It looks like an old-fashioned TV antenna with hanging points all four sides.
Yeah, I remember those, and they always tipped sideways, and or some kid jumped on them, or they look like an umbrella without.
They're always damaged, but my secret to that was a gas pipe.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, what I would do every time I put one of those in for somebody, I would pop down to the hardware store and I would get a corrugated iron gas pipe.
Yeah.
That the rod to the
center.
Yeah, that center rod would fit down.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would do is go get my little sledgehammer and go drive that gas pipe about 2 foot into the ground, and thus giving them a good, hard, solid base.
There you go.
To put the rotational clothesline in so that it could turn and spin and all that stuff. And that way you could also clean and weed eat underneath it without damaging anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, it's funny you said, because I think you used the word zip line. The big thing for me was I said, okay, fine, I'll put this up, but I'm going to put the lines up like, I don't know, 7 feet in the air. And she's like, why do you want them hanging that high? And I said, because I don't want anybody walking into them and hitting their face. As a kid, I remember that distinctly. You're running through somebody's yard and you didn't pay attention. You whacked your head on, or you took out. You can.
All right, I don't think you're running through your backyard. So I'm gonna agree with your wife.
I got a daughter that's constantly on her phone and looking down and could easily walk into something.
I can't help that. She's gonna fall in a hole. So.
All right. Well, but anyway. But so the other question is, though, if it's crispy, is there a solution for de-crispifying your clothes?
Right. So. The number one complaint for using the clothesline is it's outside.
Yeah.
And there are bugs and pollen and mold spores and anything outside that could land on it.
Mm-hmm.
And just for my personal, modern sensibilities, we live in the South. Okay, great. bring your sheets in, throw them in the dryer, put them on for 2 minutes.
Right.
And now anything outside that was on them is now gone through the dryer, and it's now no longer an issue.
Okay. All right.
But that keeps you from burning 2 hours worth of electricity.
Yeah.
For, a 2-minute fluff job.
Now, one last thing, because I have my customers, they swear by this. They throw tennis balls in their dryer.
Yeah.
They throw, 4 or 5 tennis balls every load, and it's do. But they swear it fluffs up their clothes.
It does. Just pounds them into shape. It's like washing stuff with a rock. Yeah.
Yeah, don't throw rocks in there.
No. Tennis balls are much better.
Okay. All right. Well, and then the other thing about throwing your clothes on a clothesline to me is like I talked about that canvas tool belt I had where it was the middle of summer and the thing was starting to get kind of sweaty and everything. Well, I hung it in the sun all day. And, I mean, it doesn't clean it, but it killed all that bacteria and it smelled fresh and clean now. So
the sun is an amazing antibacterial.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty. It
really is. So, fair play to your wife. If she's ready to do this, now I would put the laundry slightly out of the way.
Right.
It doesn't need to be in the middle of the walkway. It doesn't need to be in the middle of it just needs to be outside. So kind of off to one side.
Right.
Would be probably the best place.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, let me, before we move along to our next topic, I just want to say something. So a couple weeks ago, my wife, I told you she's been house sitting for her friends were out of town for an extended period of time.
Right.
So they've got 2 cats. Now they took their dog with them. It's a 2-year-old lab, which I think is actually very relevant. And, so they had a chip. They're one of these. They have the Ring camera stuff,
right?
And they set up a Ring camera right by the cat's food bowl, and they discovered they have a chipmunk running around the house. In fact, my wife saw it. Whatever. Well, it's turned into this whole thing. Like she opened the door. She tried to coax it outside.
It doesn't want to go outside.
And then they started feeling sorry for this chipmunk and forming an emotional attachment. So she's leaving pecans out to feed the thing. But then the other thing is now they're back home. And like I said, they have a 2-year-old lab, and they're really trying to somehow manage having a chipmunk that's hiding in their house with the dog. Like they're afraid the dog's going to take this thing out. And it's just a weird dynamic over there. Now, so I guess what I'm asking is, why is this chipmunk just not going away? Why won't it?
Because it's staked out its territory.
Okay, so is a chipmunk, it would want to live in a house rather than living in nature or something? Or
hot and cold running dog and cat food, high value targets? My goodness, yes.
Okay, but what about the dog threat? Because, I mean...
There's a dog in the backyard. Big deal.
No, the dog's in the house. I don't know.
Dude, trust me. There are things outside that want to eat the chipmunk just as bad as there are inside.
Okay, well, the thing she was wondering is what's the lifespan of a chipmunk? Because how long are they going to be contending
It's only a year or two. They're rodents. It's not like it's going to be there for 15 years.
And are there dangers of disease? Like, do chipmunks carry, do they have rabies?
Got fur. No, it's actually a rodent. It can't have rabies.
Oh, so is that well, I thought squirrels can have rabies.
No.
Is that? Oh, okay.
They're
all
rodents.
Right. So just live and let live, huh?
Or try to catch it, one or the other.
Okay. All right. Well, whatever. I just wanted to update you that the chipmunk has survived, and now they're trying to form a partnership here. So, all right. Well, hey, in lieu of our great moments in building history, one of our loyal listeners, Brew Blaster, had some questions about building jails, and so we're going to weigh in when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Hey, this isn't faux dive. This is a dive.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, there's too much to recap. We can't do it. We've covered a lot. We will say it is National Sandwich Month, and we'd love to hear from you about how what sandwiches you enjoy, and maybe what is the go-to sandwich for helping you get work done. But Allan, if people did miss all the action and they're just kicking themselves and they wonder, how could I ever find out what happened on Tool Talk this morning? There's probably an answer, right?
Oh, there certainly is. And there's a fabulous answer in the fact that you can take Tool Talk Radio with you anywhere you want. We are fully podcast. We're over on Spotify, YouTube, and any other wonderful source where you get your podcast, or you can just pop over to tooltalkradio.com. And there is literally years and years of content. You can just flip through the descriptions, find what you want to listen to, and put us on. And I have been told that we are fabulous background noise.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it gets you in the mood for working on your house.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Getting projects
We're
done.
good for cleaning.
There you go. So do that, and never fear, you can catch any episode you want. So, all right, well, guys, let's shift gears. Max, do you have that text pulled up? Or
I do, and I have only one criticism of Brew Blaster, and you'll know why in a second.
Okay.
Max, this is for you in tool time.
Okay, yeah. I hope that was spell check that did that.
He did, in his defense, say, later this morning, he says, yeah, my voice to text sucks bad.
I knew it, yeah. I mean, in fairness, Allan, that talk to text stuff is still not really working right.
But I digress. So here's what he said. The subject of renovating the current jail instead of jail.
Jill, yeah.
As opposed to starting over at a place like Firestone. Do you think that is something they would be willing to discuss?
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't really know that story, but I will say, first of all, Brew Blaster, stop talking into your phone and text it like a civilized person. But
so we
also
can discuss proper jail stuff.
But Allan, I said this at the top of the show. I mean, constructing a jail, like I said, if it came down to it, and you and I found ourselves locked in jail, I feel like people like contractors would have an advantage because we know how things are built. But, in a jail, I don't know. You use the comparison of a jail compared to these pizza joints you used to build back in the 80s.
Oh, well.
For kids, I don't know. But
there are
let's talk about
there are a lot of the same rules. So
keeping people in a controlled area.
Exactly. Well, the idea is, all right, let's take this from the point of view of ergonomic workflow.
Talk to me. Okay.
You need a certain amount of living space. Each living space needs certain amenities. So there's got to be
you
water.
Have a bathroom.
Well, there's got to be water. There's got to be air. So you got to bring water in. You got to take fluids and other stuff out. So, so let's just start at, like any good building project, let's start at the absolute sheer basics. We got to get power in and out, water in and out, and people in. Yeah. So the real name here is control. So for an idea of how to build a prison, let's go to the grocery store. Aha.
Okay.
All right. Well, there's a lot of control and philosophy that all applies.
Yeah.
Because you'll notice when you walk in the grocery store, where are the eggs, the cheese, and the milk?
Okay. Yeah.
Where are the eggs?
Well, they're all in the back, right?
They are in the way back.
Yeah.
They are in the far back corner of the store. Why?
Well, because first you got to walk through all the sweet foods and the chips and all the
you got to walk through the whole
impulse foods
store.
Right.
Right. So the store is actually designed for a certain design of workflow. You come in a certain way, and in most of the grocery stores these days, you walk straight into the fruit and vegetable area where a lot of people have a tendency to mill and search. All right, so when you start talking about walking into a restaurant, are you walking in and ordering at the counter, or are you walking in and going to a table? We're flowing you a certain way. In a prison, how do you get in and how do you get out? So, so these are all of these questions you start asking on the front end. And let's pick on a couple of movies. Let's pick on Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Now
And-
we're talking 1600s there, or was it 16?
Yeah,
1700s.
we're not exactly modern era.
Right.
So, we have Captain Jack Sparrow sitting there languishing in the jail, and that is because the door weighs hundreds of pounds.
Yeah.
But along comes the blacksmith,
right,
or Orlando Bloom, whichever comes first.
Yeah.
Along comes the blacksmith, and he goes, "Oh, I know what this door is. I helped put it in." And because of the way the hinge is designed, you could lift the door with the proper amount of leverage. You could lift the door off the hinge, and the door falls off.
Right.
And voila, you're out. A single person in that philosophy, you or I by ourselves, would have no way of ramping several 100 pounds of metal up and off of a couple of inch deep hinge.
Okay, so just because when I said at the beginning that I thought people like you and I might have a slight advantage because, okay, all these things have to be built. One thing goes in, then the next thing, then the next thing. Well, if you're familiar with construction techniques, you'll look at that and you'll go, okay, I see where the bars went. I see the trim around the bars.
Right.
I see the hinge mechanism, and then you could identify where the weak point is and start deconstructing from there. Now, that's assuming the guards let you do it. But,
well, the air had to come in from somewhere.
Right.
There has to be maintenance areas where you can get into. If there's air conditioning vents. There's pathways. So all of this has to be considered, and in a lot of ways, for the average person that's never been in a prison, not that you can't go tour Alcatraz or something,
right?
But go to the zoo and you have many of the same principles. I need you to be able to see the anaconda.
Yeah.
But I don't need the anaconda to be able to get to you.
Right.
So in other words, it sounds like if you don't want anybody to escape, you almost have to make the jail uninhabitable, because you wouldn't care about airflow if you didn't care about the people inside. It's just like, all right, let's just stuff them in a hole. You can't escape from there.
Well, yeah, and we're humane here in this country, Max. But yeah, so I don't know, man.
But the idea is it is function over form. So the biggest thing is it
doesn't have to look pretty.
I'll pick on a friend of mine who had a grotesquely overcomplicated backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is we had watched any number of cutesy shows on this cutesy channel, and we had designed all of these cutesy things in the backyard.
Right.
And it was basically a leg break hazard every 3 steps. Because there was a plant, or there was a rock, or there was nothing understood body flow. How do you get from point A to point B? Well, in a prison, we want nothing to interfere with that transfer.
Yeah.
So when we start walking down a hallway, we don't need office doors, and we need offices, but they can't be access to an area where you don't want the wrong person coming through that door.
Dare I even say that brutalist architecture would be perfect for a prison?
You are exactly correct.
Hooray.
Well, I was going to say, because to me, Alan, the thing to be, okay, if we're talking just strictly security and keeping people contained, I would imagine you'd want either, I don't know, concrete walls or some brick or some
cinder block. Yeah.
Cinder block, and it's funny because cinder block is not all that strong.
Definitely don't want your prison to be Baroque style.
Yeah. But here's my question: it's like I've never, I'm trying to think if I've ever seen plumbing, and I suppose you could run electrical through there fairly easy, but I'm just trying to think of how you would plumb into cinder block or into concrete. That doesn't sound fun to me. It's like I'm used to attaching pipes to a wooden stud or something like that. So
you're actually going to be working in between walls.
Okay.
So you're actually going to have the wall that, all right, Joe, you're the incarcerated. You're going to see a cinder block wall. What you're not going to see on the other side of your cinder block wall is the basically the maintenance hallway that serves you.
I was going to say there's a whole other world on the other side of that wall.
Yes.
So, okay. All right. Well, we're going to talk more about the construction of jails when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The world is a question. This room is an answer. And the answer is no.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in today, we've been talking about Italian beef sandwiches, barbecued squirrels, broken ice makers, rescued dogs, it's just a lot of random stuff. And we're in the middle of a discussion about how prisons are built. Before we get back to that discussion, though, let's talk about our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. I'm sure he loves that lead in.
I mean, I'd be curious to see his work on a jail.
Yeah, I wonder what the roofing challenges are for that, Allan. I mean, who knows? I mean, I wonder if they have the ridge caps there. Probably not. You know, I mean, you need to keep it secure. But anyway, Jay Hill is a great contractor. He's all about the exterior protection of your home, from roofing to gutters to siding to windows. Jay is he's always 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau, which is nothing to sneeze at. That's a big deal. He's one of the top-rated roofers in this entire region. He's a GAF Master Elite installer. And what they do with GAF is these are roofing systems. These roofs are so well engineered and so well constructed that they offer lifetime transferable warranties. They actually make your house run cooler. We've talked about that. I noticed that immediately when we got a new roof from Big M Roofing. It releases heat. It's not storing heat up in your attic and cooking your shingles from underneath, which it's a great thing. We always talk about the importance of airflow, but also another thing that sets Jay apart is the fact that he is a former insurance agent. If you have any problems with your home that you're wondering, are these covered by my homeowner's insurance? Jay really should be the first person you call, because this is a whole process. And so Jay's going to come out. It's a free inspection. He's going to inspect the damage, and if there's a path forward to make a claim with your homeowner's insurance, he's going to help you through that whole process and help you navigate it. And that's a big deal. I mean, that's going to save you thousands of dollars. And so, but also Jay does all types of interior and exterior remodeling, but he doesn't do kitchens or baths. He wants no part of that. But everything else, roofing, gutters, siding, windows, and all interior and exterior remodeling, Jay is the man to call. He brings a real energy and enthusiasm to every job, and he wants you to call him directly. Reach out to Jay at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. All right. Well, before the break, what triggered this is our loyal listener, Brew Blaster, had questions about jail. We're not going to get into the politics of this particular project he's talking about. We were just talking about our own thoughts about what might go into a jail. Allan, to me, the biggest issue for me was how to every space has to have plumbing. You have to keep these prisoners in there. And you have to have electricity, but getting electricity through. Okay, well, I'm just thinking about something else. I'm thinking about the ceilings. I'm thinking about all the areas that maybe people would overlook, but I'm like, okay, in the ceilings where you have wires and you have things. I guess I'm imagining what ceiling material would be ideal for a prison. You're not going to put sheetrock, but at the same time, you're not going. What would you put there? I guess I'm just wondering what's on a ceiling. I can't say I've ever noticed.
Pre-stressed concrete.
Okay, and then you want that stuff separating when there's a lot of vibrations, and then you have a slab of concrete fall on the guy in the top bunk. Or I don't know. I think there's a lot of dynamics here, and then I also don't love the idea of running plumbing straight into a cinder block or brick wall or a concrete wall. I feel like that's asking for problems. So do they have flexible water lines, I suppose? And
well, they haven't. Now that the PEX systems are available, it's very different. But Right now, we're bringing up a lot of interesting questions, and this is a really good litmus test. When you look at something like a jail or a zoo or even a restaurant where you're trying to control how people move, you really, number one is it's all about the function. What are we trying to actually accomplish here? Because that is going to dictate the materials that you can use, how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it. And the other problem is going to be, how do you fix it when it goes wrong?
Right.
Because
how do you get to that plumbing behind
How do you get to that plumbing without putting yourself, is there electricity in the gorilla cage? Well, there probably is. And water and plumbing, but you can't get in there and fix it with an 800-pound gorilla or a tiger or a hippo or, these are, things will go bad. So you really have to coordinate, how do we fix this? How do we fix a backed up toilet in a prison?
Which happens. I mean,
anything is possible. You just take anything that can happen in your home, and now we're going to make it 10 times as serious to think about how to correct it.
Mm-hmm. The other thing about a jail, which is interesting to me, is because, we talk about, when we're talking about our homes, we're always talking about creating positive dynamics in your home. You want your home to be well lit because, in a jail, you're trying to encourage people. Okay, for one thing, it's your job. You got to keep these prisoners safe. You're responsible for that. But you also want to make this unpleasant enough where they're never going to want to come back. There's a level of rehabilitation, but there's also a level of punishment. I think just the way you set up the cells and the whole thing, there's just a lot of psychological components here.
Your way of thinking went out 150 years ago. Because all we're worried about now is function.
Okay.
We are not worried about, sit in here and think about what you've done. We don't do that anymore. That all disappeared a long time ago. What we are worried about now is, how do I feed you?
Yeah.
How do I bathe you? How do I contain you? Is because if you think about it, and again, I go back to a zoo, and I go back to, I'll pick on my favorite ones out in California, was these sea otters. They had a little exhibit, and they had the cute, fluffy sea otters. Well, one, they're a lot bigger than you think they are. These things are 4 or 5 feet long.
It's funny you say that, because when you see sea otters, they do look kind of small, but you don't really usually see them up against anything.
You're floating in an ocean. You're not trying to bathe one.
You're going to look small.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not as small as you think they are. 2, they're a lot smarter than you think they are. And when they're in their exhibit, what do they actually have to do?
Right.
Because you're going to feed them.
Yeah.
So what do they have to do?
Yeah.
They're not worried about getting eaten by an orca. What do they have to do? They have nothing else better to do but examine their enclosure.
Oh, now that's interesting. Yeah.
All right, think about this. You have an animal of a certain level of intelligence, and you're trying, and I'm throwing this out there to everybody with dogs, cats, rabbits, turtles, whatever. If you think about this, they got nothing else better to do but examine the area you have them in.
That makes me think of your cat, Joe, Victor, how he's constantly sitting at the places he knows that he can make an escape.
Yeah, that's true. Right by the back door, it crouched out of position. Crouched out of sight, so you don't see him and everything. So I guess, I don't know, Brew Blaster, I suppose. For one thing, Allan and I have never built a prison. What do we know? But it's just my gut tells me
I've renovated a Western prison.
Yeah. Well, my gut tells me that I honestly think your HVAC guys, your your concrete contractors and your plumbers are at the top of the list. Thinking about prison dynamics and prison, how to design a structural prison.
And
I don't know how much carpentry comes into play here. Where would you even have wood?
You have the carpentry rules.
Okay.
So you're still putting in walls. They may not be sheetrock necessarily.
Yeah.
But you're still putting in walls. You're still building a habitable area. But the function of the habitable area is containment.
Now I'm just thinking of the Death Star, how Galen Erso intentionally designed the Death Star to have a weak point. And so I'm just thinking of these architects that if they, like, oh, heaven forbid if I'm ever imprisoned, I designed the weak points of this place, and I want to make sure that I could escape.
All right. You
You way overthink things,
You
man.
need to watch a movie from 1969 called Support Your Local Sheriff. It's a James Garner movie. If you've never seen it, you need to watch it because in it, they have to hold a prisoner, and the prison's not finished. The jail cell
that's
is not
interesting.
finished.
So they're going on the trust factor.
Well,
the honor code.
They're not going on any honor code at all. There is some serious mental manipulation. And there is a classic line where the bad guys show up to break out the bad guy in jail. And he looks at him and goes, I wouldn't tie those saddles to these bars in this wall.
Yeah.
But nobody listens to him, and they go to rip the wall down, and they take off, and everybody gets snatched off their horse. And he goes, I tried to tell y'all those bars were set too deep in the wall. And they're like, how do you know that? He goes, I sat here and watched them do it.
There you go.
And,
all right.
Enjoy.
Well, Brew Blaster, I guess we don't have any answers for you, but it was fun speculating about how prisons are built. So, but okay, Allan, we're going to do this. When we come back, we're finally going to talk about the cosmic homeowner.
Cool.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
This on? Hey, listen up down there. That thing's called an elevator, not a bathroom.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Welcome to jail.
Yeah, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And just what a weird, there's a different vibe in the show today. I mean, it just happens sometimes. So let's just keep it rolling. Do you got anything, Max? Okay. We are workshopping this segment, folks. It's probably going to evolve, but basically we're calling this the cosmic homeowner. And the whole point of this exercise is to remind people, and I wrote it down here, Allan. Our homes are built on a giant organic spacecraft hurtling through the galaxy on top of shifting volcanic tectonic plates beneath us. And as you've taught us, Allan, in the past in science, every part of the galaxy is a little different. And in certain periods of history, we roll through what you've called the dirty part of the galaxy. In other words, there could be much more meteor activity. There could be a lot of things that we're basically hurtling through, which affect us. But I think there's something to be said as a homeowner of understanding really the cosmic nature of what we're up against. I mean, our homes really are. It's amazing when you think of the fact that we have that you could look at a glass of water on a table and it's just sitting there. Why isn't that thing flying everywhere? Why are we even? I don't know. But it's not always that way. Sometimes things shift. And cosmic forces play a role in our home ownership. So.
Considering we're going 67,000 miles per hour.
Right.
Yeah. That's actually not an exaggeration.
We're changing. See, I'm just thinking, I mean, like we said, a couple weeks ago, we had we had an earthquake. And if you look at, I looked at a global map. It showed the tsunami and the aftershocks, and it was all over the place. I mean, it was like half the globe. Mm-hmm. And then there's volcanoes and stuff that gets, this all ties together. And when you think of shifting tectonic plates and everything, so I don't know. I think it's good to be aware of this stuff.
And have a good insurance agent on speed dial.
Right. Well, and I also wonder how animals relate to this, because we've seen these things where the animals might be in a certain part of they're in a certain zone and they all start acting weird and then 5 minutes later there's an earthquake or something. Like, in other words, they sense things before we do. Have you, the animal kingdom seems to have.
Well, I know the animal kingdom is shifting. Mm-hmm. I driving down Walnut Grove, a very large thoroughfare here in Memphis, for those of you listening outside of Memphis, and there was a groundhog.
Yeah.
All right. Memphis we're not known for groundhogs. We don't really have them. Basically,
is that the big guy? Like, it looks like a beaver, but
they're not small.
Running around.
Walking down the side of the street, baby, just like he owned it. Doody-doody-doody-doody-doo. Now, I'm from Texas, where we got ground squirrels and that kind of thing. And
right.
If you guys think a mole can dig up your front yard, you have seen nothing. A mole is a rank amateur compared to these guys.
Yeah.
They can tunnel out anything.
How do you account for this? Like,
I mean, just, like
somebody
critters.
brought a groundhog into town.
Well, they've probably been in the area. Just now they're populous enough that I've seen one. One of the things you learn when you're a child in South Texas is you don't play with velvet ants. What's a velvet ant?
Yeah.
I'll even send you a picture of one, Joe. They're beautiful. They're huge, about inch and a half long. Looks like an ant, and it looks like it's made out of crushed red velvet.
Who'd want to touch that?
Cute.
They are absolutely beautiful, but they are a female wasp, and they have a nickname called cattle killers.
Oh,
They
wow.
sting and sting hard.
Yeah.
So in the cosmic universe, for the cosmic universe, we have two great sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
J is your defense against outer space.
Right.
Because we are bathed in solar radiation every single day.
I'm glad you mentioned it, because solar was a big deal to me. I was thinking about, we think about, okay, well, our plants love the sun.
Right.
Well, our roof and anything made of plastic and our paints and our others don't love the sun.
Right.
Radiation, we sometimes don't think of what is our houses are being bathed in radiation, right?
Yes.
Am I right? And
yes. Well, I am somewhat you and I are somewhat tan because we are out in the solar radiation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm using that word on purpose because it is radiation.
Right.
It is a radiant energy being produced by an interstellar, So I say that to bring it home, going, I'm not worried about something weird happened in California or some volcano went off in Oregon.
Yeah, it all connects.
Okay. My opinions
or a solar flare.
My opinions of these ants are slowly becoming more dissipated. It's like, all right, I'm seeing the size of their stingers and I don't like them anymore.
Yeah, why? I don't know why you'd want to deal with these ants. So,
I had one walk across the job site yesterday, and I'm like, I called people over and went, "Do you see this?
Right.
Leave it alone. Don't touch it. Don't kill it. Don't step on it. Leave it alone, because if you mess with it, you are going to fool around and find out."
Well, one of the themes that I had in mind for the cosmic homeowner was the notion of we all live on one planet. And I almost think of it as like living inside a big greenhouse where we have this one atmosphere that we share. Well, when you mention the groundhogs trolling through, through Memphis, well, we're a much more interconnected society in terms of people that, you might live in Switzerland and move to America, or you might move to whatever, and we're coming and going constantly. And we're taking things from other climates or other ecosystems that may not really like being in a new ecosystem. And they may react and they may do things destructive. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we're mixing and matching all this
That'd
stuff.
be the entire state of Florida right now.
Yeah.
They're loving Burmese pythons. Yeah.
So, and that's why you come up with terms like invasive species, right?
Well, yeah, it's... when was the last time you got hit in the head by a 40-pound carp doing 30 miles an hour down the river? It's, things that weren't a thing are now a thing.
Right.
It's hard to imagine to see, but oddly in Memphis, and I constantly pound this in, Memphis is so blessed because Memphis is cut off by two rivers.
Mm-hmm.
We have, the Tennessee River cuts the state of Tennessee into three parts.
Yeah.
So we're over in the western part. So we have a river on the west. We got a great big river on the to the west of us, a moderate-sized river to the east of us, and that separates us off so we don't deal with a lot of things like rabies.
Yeah,
we don't have a lot of critters and diseases that some of our neighbors have. You know, and we're just far enough north, we don't have to worry about certain things, and we're just far enough south, the things that affect the north don't really get to us. So we're kind of in this little sweet spot here in the center, but things do, because we do have a really big river as our next door neighbor, and periodically it comes over to visit.
Yeah. And it may be doing that, Alan, because of things like
it's pouring down rain in Illinois.
Right.
And suddenly we got rivers rising in Memphis, St. Louis, Vicksburg, all the way down to Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Because whatever happens up on the Missouri River eventually happens down here. Whatever happens way up the Mississippi, all the way up to Minnesota, eventually comes down through Memphis.
Yeah. So if there's tidal waves in Australia, folks, don't think that it doesn't affect us somehow. It will. It'll catch up to us. So the cosmic homeowner is going to be, we're gonna weigh in on that from time to time. Not anymore though. It's time to get out of here, you guys. The show is over. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.